My sister smashed my 6-year-old daughter's new bike with a hammer right in front of her eyes. "That should be a lesson for her," she said. "You shouldn't have bought it for her," my mom added. I didn't scream. I just smiled and said one sentence, and their faces went pale. Now, let me back up for a second, because if I don't, you're going to think I'm making this up. But no, this really happened. Picture this: a sunny Saturday afternoon, one of those rare moments where the laundry is folded, the dishwasher isn't beeping at me, and the world feels almost manageable. My daughter Eliza is bouncing around, grinning from ear to ear, practically glowing with excitement. She's been dying to show off the bike that's sitting in our driveway. Shiny, bright, perfect. And who do we have over? My mom and my sister Shayla. Because of course, why not ruin a perfectly good Saturday with family politics? The second Eliza sees them, she practically shouts, "Have you seen the new bike?" Her voice is so full of pride I can feel it bubbling out of her. She grabs their hands, tugging them outside like she's about to unveil the crown jewels. And that's when I saw it, the look on Shayla's face. Her smile tightened, her jaw stiffened. You know the face someone makes when they've bitten into something sour but don't want to admit it? That was her. I knew that look. I'd grown up with it. Still, I wasn't prepared for what came next. Shayla didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, staring at the bike as though it had personally insulted her. Eliza was still beaming, pointing out the little details she loved, the streamers on the handles, the way the paint caught the light. Then Shayla spoke, her voice cool, almost calm. "Let me show you what I think about this." And before I could even process what she meant, she turned on her heel, walked into my house, and came back out holding a hammer. A hammer. Now let me tell you, in moments like this, you don't actually believe what you're seeing. Your brain scrambles. You're thinking, surely she's not going to. She wouldn't. Oh, but she would. With one sharp swing, she brought the hammer down onto the bike's frame. The sound, it was like metal screaming. Eliza's little gasp, the way her hands flew up to cover her mouth. God, I'll never forget it. Another swing, a crunch. The paint splintered, the wheel bent. I stood there frozen, watching, my body rigid but my mind buzzing, like every alarm in the world had gone off at once. And do you know what Shayla said? She didn't scream. She didn't rant. She just looked at my 6-year-old daughter, my baby, square in the eyes and said, "That should be a lesson for her." A lesson. As if teaching a child that joy can be demolished in 3 hammer strikes is a lesson worth learning. Eliza didn't cry. Not right away. She just stared at her broken treasure, her lips trembling, her little shoulders shaking. And me? I felt this icy wave wash over me. Not rage, not yet, just shock. That's when my mom decided to weigh in. And of course, you'd expect a grandmother to scoop up her granddaughter, comfort her, maybe scold her other daughter for going full demolition mode in the driveway. But no. Instead, my mom shook her head, folded her arms, and said, "You shouldn't have bought it for her." Like this was my fault. I almost laughed. I mean, the absurdity of it, standing there while my sister turned a 6-year-old's joy into scrap metal, and somehow I'm the problem. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw myself at Shayla or snatch the hammer from her hands. No, I stood there, and I smiled. Because sometimes, silence is the sharpest knife you've got. Shayla dropped the hammer onto the concrete with a clatter. She actually looked satisfied. My mom nodded, as though Shayla had just made some sort of sensible point. And me? I just smiled and said one sentence, and whatever they expected me to do, sob, plead, defend myself, oh no. What I said made their faces go pale. Now you're probably dying to know what that one sentence was, and I'll tell you. But not yet. Because the truth is, that moment, right there in the driveway, with a bike smashed into a useless heap, my sister looking smug, and my mom looking righteous, that moment didn't come out of nowhere. It was years in the making. Shayla was my little sister, 2 years younger than me, and she came into the world screaming, and honestly, I don't think she ever stopped. The difference is that when most kids scream, their parents teach them boundaries. When Shayla screamed, our parents taught me. Every tantrum of hers somehow circled back to being my fault. She didn't get the toy she wanted. Why didn't you let her have yours, Catherine? She lost a game? Why couldn't you just let her win? You know how sensitive she is. She broke something? Why did you make her so upset she threw it? By the time I was 10, I could have run a crash course on walking on eggshells. My mom's favorite line was, "Don't upset your sister," which was hilarious because Shayla could be upset by literally anything. There was this one time, I still remember it like it was yesterday, I saved up my allowance to buy her a little necklace. Cheap, but cute. I thought I was being a good big sister. She opened it, saw it wasn't pink but blue, shrieked like I'd handed her a dead rat, and snapped the chain in half. My mom didn't scold her. She turned to me and said, "You know she wanted pink. Why would you get blue?" That was my childhood in a nutshell. Shayla smashed things. I got blamed. Fast forward a couple decades, and guess what? Some things never change. I studied law, worked my way through long nights, and eventually built a decent career. It paid off. I make more than the rest of my family, enough to live comfortably. And because of that, I often ended up helping them financially, covering necessities, making sure bills got paid. But here's the problem with helping people who already resent you. No matter what you give, it's never enough. I'd help with groceries, electricity, or medication. But when I said no to extras, suddenly I was stingy, selfish, showing off. In their eyes, if I wasn't bankrolling every whim, I was the villain. So when I tell you the bike incident didn't come out of nowhere, you see what I mean. It started one afternoon when my daughter Eliza and my niece Brooklyn, Shayla's little girl, about the same age as Eliza, were playing outside. Brooklyn had her bike, the one she'd been riding for a while, except that day, it gave out on her. Something snapped or slipped. I didn't see it happen, but I heard the wail. Eliza, bless her, tried to help. She's 6, so her idea of fixing things is basically poking at them and saying, "I can do it." But the truth is, the bike was already a goner. Of course, the second Shayla saw, she pointed at my daughter and shouted, "She broke it!" You could have sworn Eliza had taken a sledgehammer to the thing. My mom backed her up instantly. "You need to take responsibility, Catherine. Eliza has to learn actions have consequences." I didn't argue. I just said we'd bring the bike home and David, my husband, could look at it, because sometimes you pick your battles, and sometimes you wait until you have proof. That evening, David rolled the bike into the garage. He's good with tools, patient, methodical. He turned it over, checked the chain, the frame, the pedals. After 10 minutes, he looked up at me and said, "This isn't Eliza. This is a defect. See this? It could have failed on anyone." And the worst part? He was right. The thing was dangerous. If Brooklyn had been going downhill or crossing a street when it broke, well, let's just say I don't even want to finish that sentence. So no, my daughter hadn't broken the bike. The bike had broken itself. And that's when my anger kicked in. I'd fought my way through law school, so I knew exactly which words to use when people tried to dodge accountability. I picked up the phone and called the manufacturer. I explained the situation in detail. A child's bike, broken due to a defect, unsafe, unacceptable. I might have also mentioned words like liability and injury. Funny how fast people start listening when you sprinkle those in. By the next morning, I had an email sitting in my inbox. They were replacing the bike. But not just replacing it. See, this is where being persistent, and okay, maybe a little intimidating, pays off. I pushed. I argued that a basic replacement wasn't enough. Brooklyn deserved something better, especially after the danger she'd been put in. So they agreed to upgrade, to the very model Brooklyn had been begging for, the dream bike, the one she'd been talking about nonstop. And when that email came through, I actually smiled. Because finally, there was going to be some justice. Not only would Brooklyn get the bike she wanted, but Eliza's name would be cleared. The whole "she broke it" nonsense would fall apart the moment everyone saw what had really happened. I decided to keep it quiet. I wanted it to be a surprise. Imagine it. Brooklyn's face lighting up when she saw the bike of her dreams waiting for her. Shayla realizing her daughter had something wonderful thanks to me, not despite me. I thought for one brief moment maybe this could heal things, but as I would learn in the driveway, some people don't want things healed. They want them broken. In Shayla's head, I had bought that bike for my child while her child had none. In her head, Eliza had broken the old one, and now I'd gone and bought the exact model her daughter had been dreaming about, so Eliza could ride it in front of her. Humiliation dressed up as generosity, cruelty in glitter streamers. That's the story she told herself as she raised the hammer. I let the silence stretch until even the birds seemed uncomfortable. The metal ticked softly as it settled. My mother's mouth was a thin line of approval, like discipline had just been served and dessert would follow. I didn't give them dessert. "I'm going to say this once," I told them, voice so level it surprised even me. That bike wasn't for Eliza. 2 beats. Their pupils darted, searching for the trick. "It was for Brooklyn." Shayla blinked first. "No, it wasn't." It came out fast, like a sneeze. "It was," I said. "I fought the manufacturer to replace the defective one and got the upgrade, the one she's been talking about for months." My mother clicked her tongue the way she does before a lecture. "Don't be dramatic, Catherine." I looked down at the ruined frame. "I'm not the one who brought a hammer to a children's bike." Shayla's face went blotchy. "You're lying. You always lie when you get caught." "About what? Emails? Paperwork? The badge-wearing words liability and child safety?" I let a smile flicker. "Would you like me to pull them up? Or would you prefer I read them aloud in the front yard?" That landed. I watched it register. The dawning, the recoil, the sudden need to rearrange the furniture in her story. Her gaze skittered from the bike to Eliza and back to me. "You expect me to believe you'd do something like that for my kid?" "No," I said. "I expect you to regret what you just did." Eliza's hand found the back of my leg, small, warm, steady. I covered it with mine. I didn't look down. I didn't want her to see my eyes yet. Not like this. My mother stepped forward as if sheer proximity could reshape reality. "Catherine, there's no need to humiliate your sister. You can fix this, claim insurance, say it was a misunderstanding." "And the part where a grown woman destroyed a 6-year-old's joy on purpose?" I asked. "Do we classify that under misunderstanding or teachable moment?" Shayla folded her arms so tightly her knuckles went white. "It was a moment," she sniffed. "People have moments." "Kitchen crying is a moment," I said. "This was a demolition project." "Watch your tone," my mother snapped, as if tone had been the weapon here. I let the quiet fall again. It had weight now. You could set a glass on it. "Leave," I said. Shayla laughed, a sharp, disbelieving bark. "Leave what?" "My house," I said. "And after that, my life." They stared at me like I'd announced I was moving to Mars. My mother's hand fluttered up, fingers clutching pearls that weren't there. "Don't be ridiculous. We're family." "That word," I said, "doesn't mean what you use it to mean." Shayla's eyes narrowed. "You don't mean it." I kept my voice even. "I do." She took a step toward Eliza. I shifted, instinctive, one hand easing my daughter behind me. David had been quiet up to now. You know that stillness some men have that can feel like a room remembering its shape? He stepped onto the porch, wiped his palms on his jeans, and stopped beside me. "Time to go," he said gently, to both of them. Not angry, not smug, just final. "David," my mother tried, "talk sense into your wife." "I am," he said. And there it was, a door closing without slamming. Shayla looked past us into the hallway, as if the right words might yet be hanging on a coat hook. "You can't do this," she said. "We're your family. We help each other." "You brought a hammer to my child's joy," I said. Help has exited the chat. For a second, something shifted in her expression, fear or comprehension I couldn't tell. Then she rounded on me again, desperate. "We can fix it. We can just..." Say it was an accident. No one needs to know. Eliza knows, I said. I know. You know. I tilted my head at the street. And the neighbors with windows? Probably also know. My mother reached for courtroom compromise. We'll talk tomorrow when you've calmed down. I almost laughed. I'm calm, I said. That's what's scaring you. David opened the gate. Please leave, I said, and this time I didn't add the rest. Some sentences are sharper when you let them end early. They hesitated. You could feel the push-pull on their faces, the old habit of bulldozing, the new realization that bulldozers need keys, and I wasn't handing them over anymore. Shayla went first, shoulders stiff, steps quick. My mother followed, pausing on the threshold like she might turn and revise the whole scene with a single scolding. I just looked at her. She stepped out. David closed the door. Not a slam. A seal. Silence. It wasn't empty. It had a shape, a temperature. In it, I could hear Eliza's small breaths, could feel the tremor fading in her hand. We stood like that for a count of 10, long enough for my heartbeat to climb down from the roof. Mom, Eliza said finally, voice papery. Did I do something wrong? I crouched so we were eye to eye. No, I said. You did nothing wrong. Her chin wobbled. Auntie was mad. She was, I said. But people can be mad and still be wrong. She nodded like she understood, which broke me a little more than the bike. Do we still get ice cream? She whispered, as if we might have forfeited dessert by angering the adults. Absolutely, I said. 2 scoops, 3 if you tell Dad which ones. A ghost of a smile. Chocolate and sprinkles. Scientifically optimal choice, David said from behind her, trying to lighten the air. But the truth was, the air in that house was different now. It wasn't heavy the way it had been all my life. It was sharp, clean, almost too clear. I could feel the silence pressing in, but for once it didn't feel like weakness. It felt like a boundary. We went inside, and while David distracted Eliza with sprinkles and ice cream, I pulled out my phone. My hands didn't shake. Not anymore. I opened every account I'd been paying into, utilities, streaming, groceries. One by one, I removed my card. No announcement, no explanation, no speech. Just clicks. Done. It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. And it didn't take long. Because while I was rinsing the bowls and Eliza was crunching sprinkles between her teeth, my phone lit up again. This time it wasn't just messages. It was a call. Mom. Then Shayla. Then Mom again. I didn't pick up, but I read the preview of one text, and it was enough. We just got a notice. Your card was removed from the account. Why would you do this? Add it back. They knew. Another came seconds later. What are you playing at? This is petty. Put the card back right now. I stared at the screen, at the desperation leaking through their words. Funny how fast people go from righteous to begging when the faucet shuts off. David glanced over. You don't have to answer. I know. I slid the phone face down on the counter, but the buzzing didn't stop. Call after call, text after text, like they could pound their way back into my life through sheer persistence. One finally came through with enough venom that I read it twice. You'll regret this. Family is family. You can't just cut us out. That's when I smiled, because for the first time I realized they were wrong. I could, and I had. By the next morning the calls had slowed, but the texts hadn't, and when the buzzing finally went quiet, I should have known it wasn't peace. It was planning, because if my family can do one thing, it's rewrite history. The first hint was a ping from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in 6 months. Hey, sorry about the drama. I hope you and Eliza are okay. I frowned. Drama? As far as I was concerned, smashing a child's bike with a hammer was a felony, not drama. Then came the screenshots. Apparently my sister and my mom had taken their campaign online, or at least into our extended family group chat, the one that still carried the digital remains of a reunion photo from 2015. They spun the whole thing into a tragedy where they were the victims and I was the villain. According to them, Eliza broke Brooklyn's bike. I refused to help. And then, this is my favorite part, I cut them off financially out of spite. No mention of the hammer, no mention of the driveway, no mention of the fact that my mom stood there nodding like a judge handing down a sentence while my sister destroyed a 6-year-old's joy. The story was so warped it should have come with a funhouse mirror. I wanted to ignore it. I really did. But when I saw relatives chiming in, little thumbs-up emojis, "Oh no, poor Brooklyn," and "That's so cruel of Catherine," something in me snapped. Because here's the thing, I can take people thinking I'm cold, I can take people thinking I'm difficult, but my daughter being painted as a spoiled brat who got rewarded after breaking someone else's bike? No, that I won't let slide. So I didn't. I opened my security app. You know those cameras you install on your porch because you're paranoid about package thieves? Turns out sometimes they capture family meltdowns too. And there it was, crystal clear, Shayla walking out with the hammer, Eliza's little gasp, metal bending, paint cracking, my mother's voice in the background blaming me, the whole ugly symphony. I downloaded the clip, trimmed nothing, and posted it right back into that family chat. No commentary, no rant, just the video and one sentence. For the record, that bike was meant for Brooklyn. Shayla destroyed it herself. This is why Brooklyn doesn't have a bike now. Then I put the phone down. I didn't have to wait long. The chat exploded like a grenade in a tin can. Aunts gasping in all caps, cousins typing WTF like they were auditioning for a new keyboard shortcut. People who had quietly believed the rewritten version suddenly had to stare the truth in the face. And the truth was wearing sweatpants and holding a hammer. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt tired. Because here's the thing. Once you put the truth out there, people don't thank you for it. They just pick sides louder. My mother called within an hour. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me wanted to hear what excuse she'd come up with. She didn't disappoint. "Yes, maybe your sister overreacted," she began. "But how could you post that video? You've ruined her reputation." I bit back a laugh. "She ruined herself, Mom. I just pressed play." "You don't humiliate family," she hissed. "Funny," I said. "That's exactly what she did to a 6-year-old with a hammer." The silence on the line was sharp enough to draw blood. Then she hung up. But the fallout wasn't finished. Because the video didn't just make its way through our family chat. It spread. Friends of friends, neighbors. Someone even posted it on Facebook with the caption, "Who does this?" And apparently one person who saw it was Shayla's husband. Now, I won't pretend he and I ever got along. He always acted like he was auditioning for Most Tired Man in America. But even he couldn't look at that footage and shrug. He called me. Actually called me, which he never does. "Is it real?" he asked. His voice was flat, but I could hear something underneath it. "Yes," I said. "It's real." He exhaled, long and slow, like air leaving a balloon that had been inflated too long. "Thank you," he said, and hung up. The next thing I heard, he'd filed for divorce and custody of Brooklyn. And that, strangely enough, was the first moment I felt relief, because it meant someone else finally saw it, finally said, "This is not okay." The calls from Shayla and my mom kept coming, but now they had a different tone, less righteous, more desperate. "You didn't have to post it. You're tearing this family apart. Think of your niece." As if I hadn't been thinking of her this whole time, I stopped answering. Instead, I sat on the edge of Eliza's bed that night, watching her sleep, and let myself feel something I hadn't in a long time. Not rage, not exhaustion, just clarity. Because this is what they never understood. Family isn't a free pass. You don't get to smash and lie and demand and still expect unconditional loyalty. Family is supposed to mean protection, safety, love. And if it doesn't, then maybe family is just another word people hide behind when they're afraid of consequences. In the end, I drew the line. Maybe for some people that's too far. For others, maybe not nearly far enough. What do you think? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more.